Welcome, my friends. I'm Lisa Grill. This episode is called The End of Suffering. The main reason why spiritual awakening or enlightenment is famous for this statement, the end of suffering, is that perception changes and attachment to emotions and judgments going away. We achieve this state not through escaping life, not through chasing pleasures, but through awakening, a perspective shift in the way we see ourselves and our emotions. Most people live believing their emotions are truth. Anger, jealousy, fear, sadness, they take them personally, as if each wave defines who they are. But what if emotions are not you? What if they are simply echoes of the ego mind, habitual reactions rooted in old survival patterns? When we begin to look at emotions differently, when we see that they are attachments of the ego and not our essence, something extraordinary happens. Suffering dissolves, pain no longer sticks. We become witnesses instead of prisoners. Sure, it happens with the time and after repeated introspection and some techniques I'll give you today. And who knows, if you apply them and feel deeply, you'll awaken quicker and will forget about any sort of psychologists and coaches. So what I want to explore with you today, how discernment of emotions, seeing them clearly, helping us to dissolve mental programs and trauma. At first glance, it may seem cold or mechanical, but actually it's a very powerful tool for spiritual awakening, which I started to apply watching hundreds of satsangs for self-realization, for freedom from the endless cycle of reacting and endless cycle of rebirth. Satanama. I have a vision now that we all have a very similar so-called karma installed with ego mind and needed to be transcended. What is impossible to do as long as we identify ourselves with ego. So let us step together into this exploration. Life as a dream, ego as a construct, and emotions as a product of ego settings. Every sensation, every thought, every emotion, they are like dream scenes passing by. But what if, inside this dream, you suddenly woke up? Think about your nighttime dreams. You're running, flying, meeting people, facing challenges, and it all feels real. Your heart races, your body reacts, but then in one instant of lucidity, you realize, oh, this is a dream. I'm dreaming right now. That realization changes everything. The dream continues, but your relationship with it shifts. Life is exactly the same. Most of the time, we live as if trapped inside the story, believing we are the character. We say, I am my body, I am my emotions, I am my thoughts. In simple words, everything feels so real that we begin to take life too seriously and lose the joy we once had in early childhood. But awakening is like opening your eyes within the dream. Suddenly you see that you are not limited to this. The body, the mind, the emotions are only one layer of perception. You are much wider, much freer, much vaster than that. To become free, you need to discover the whole new dimension inside yourself, to experience the perspective shift, and pass through the process of the disidentification with ego programs. The doorway to this awakening often begins with the mind, because the mind is where the illusion is woven. The mind produces the narrative, I am hurt, I am not good enough, I need to achieve this, I must be loved. These voices keep us bound inside the dream and predispose all our decisions and life. But when you start observing the mind instead of believing it, a crack opens. You notice there is thinking, but there is also the one who notices the thinking. There is a feeling, but there is also the one who sees the feelings arise and dissolve. A simple technique is this. Whenever an emotion arises, instead of saying, I am angry or I am sad, say, I notice anger is here. I notice sadness is passing through. That small shift creates distance between you and the emotion. Suddenly, you are not the sufferer, you are the witness. And here is the key. Emotions only have power when there is attachment to them. When you cling, when you believe, when you personalize, then suffering begins. But when you allow emotions to be seen, without the label mine, they lose their grip. They're not ruling you anymore. What about the ego? Ego is not your enemy. It's simply a structure, a protective mechanism. It was built so that you could survive, so you could function in society. As children, we learn very quickly that love and acceptance are conditional. We adapt, we create masks, we become the good child, the smart one, the strong one. Ego is this adaptation, this protective shell. It helps us navigate relationships, but it's not who we truly are. The ego is built on fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of death. But once you awaken, you see through it. You realize, this is not me, this is just a program running, a survival code written a long time ago. And when the program dissolves, what remains is pure essence, not a mask, some role, not a reaction, just being. As if all your life you were wearing a mask through which you couldn't breathe freely. Now here is something that feels radical to the unawakened mind. When you live from essence, there is no guilt, there is no shame, there is no should or must, because everything flows from the heart. If it's true for your heart to say no, then you say no, and you say it with clarity, not with fear. Even if the other person feels pain in response, you know that pain is not caused by you. It's their own story, their own lesson, their own emotion arising to be seen. You cannot actually hurt anyone at the level of truth. You cannot truly offend anyone. Offense is only the mind clinging to expectation. When someone says, "You hurt me," it's really their inner wound being touched. It's not your act that created the wound. The wound was already there, waiting to be seen. Many people use guilt as a program to manipulate you into giving them what they want. Even when you make a mistake, an action that may feel unfair to someone, guilt is not an appropriate response. Instead, you can try to correct the situation if it's possible. And if it's not possible, then it becomes a life lesson, a teacher that shows you more about yourself and others. In the same way, we cannot expect other people to always please us, approve us, or love us. To allow others the freedom to dislike you, to disagree, or to hold their own subjective opinions is to step into a higher form of your own freedom. When you are centered and rooted in unconditional self-value, knowing your worth simply as a being, other people's words pass through you like air, without leaving discomfort inside. This is the beauty of awakening. You are no longer dependent on judgments or emotional reactions from the outside world. You see them as reflections of the other person's own state, not as definitions of who you are. And in this independence, self-expression flows naturally. You're not forcing yourself to please or protect. You speak and act from truth. Guilt is a chain that binds expression. It causes inflammation in our body and attracts self-punishment events. But when you dissolve it, you stand in your essence, free, unshakable, and awake. And so awakening brings a freedom. No guilt, no shame, no heaviness of conscience, only truth spoken with love. One very practical tool is what I call mental discernment or cognitive reframing of emotions. It means that when you feel something, anger, jealousy, fear, you don't drown in it. Instead, you step back and analyze. Where does this come from? What story is behind it? What am I afraid of losing? For example, if you feel jealousy, you can ask, do I believe I am incomplete without this person? Do I think I am unworthy if someone chooses another? When you bring it to light, the illusion dissolves. You see a program within that is afraid to be rejected and being left alone. Discerning here doesn't mean suppression. It doesn't mean cold logic like in Scientology. It means highlighting awareness onto the emotion until its roots are visible. And once visible, the emotion cannot control you anymore. This is how the mind, which once trapped you, becomes a tool of liberation. If you combine such mental work with practices of Kundalini Yoga for emotions, I had the whole playlist on my channel devoted to releasing different emotions from the body, you'll transform super quickly at mental, bodily, and energy levels. And again, coming back to the lucid perception of reality or altered state of consciousness. So imagine walking through your day as if it was a lucid dream. You eat, you talk, you work, but behind it all there is this awareness. I'm dreaming. None of this can bind me. None of this defines me. I like to call it you are in, but at the same time out of this world, as a guest, the stranger. This realization doesn't make life dull. On the contrary, it makes it luminous. Colors become brighter, sounds deeper, presence stronger. You start to live not from fear or compulsion, but from freedom and creativity. Instead of emotions, you start experiencing sensations of the body and deep feelings. They have no judgments, but they have taste, which is not good or bad because judgments coming from emotions and assessment of the mind. But this sensual perception will have its own depth, color, and taste. It's like wearing a virtual glasses and being loaded into a hyper-realistic game, being excited by what you see all the time. This state is achieved through many practices I shared on my channel, but why I like to mention sleep deprivation more often is that I've never explored any tool which biochemically pushes you to this state almost immediately. When the body is pushed beyond its usual rhythm of rest, something unusual happens. The walls of ordinary perception grow thin. The emotions of ego, the constant reacting, defending, seeking approval, they begin to fall away. What remains is a raw, deep sensitivity, a perception that is not dulled by habit, but alive and clear. In this state, all ego-mind programs just fallen off, and you feel no limits and great revelations arrive. To be honest, I don't want to sound rude, but we all are mentally sick. We are in constant chatter within us. But in the altered states of consciousness, nothing like this exists. Only gorgeous state of beauty and pleasure out of any experience you have here on earth. This state can feel similar to what people describe when using cannabis or mushrooms. Relaxation, the sense that reality is more fluid, more immediate, more dreamlike. But here it's more sober and clear. It comes not from substances, but from the simple shift in consciousness that happens when you are stretched beyond routine sleep. Any drug use leading to dependency and dangerous imbalance of your brains. While sleep deprivation is a natural activation of our brain chemistry, giving us pleasure, and is used in psychiatry to heal severe depression. In that space of expansion, you are no longer living through the emotions of ego. The barking dog falls asleep and doesn't attack you with its negativity. Feels like a clean space freeing up inside your head, and thoughts are sliding to the background. You are living through sensitivity itself. Every sound, every texture, every look in someone's eyes carries weight and depth. Your body starts enjoying too, and not perceived as burden but as a tool for pleasure. Sure, if there are energy blocks or some diseases, they can even pop up on the surface in the beginning, but if you gently keep on applying this tool from time to time, you'll see rejuvenation and change of your hormonal system to the better. I'm talking from my own experience. This practice heals psyche, and life feels like a lucid dream that you are awake inside of. And when you look around you, you perceive all people differently as well. Sometimes I'm witnessing how people yelling at each other and they feel emotions so dramatically, so deeply, so real, and I realize that I won't ever experience this again because any emotion, if ever arises, is witnessed by me real, by the presence, by the perception. I see that I'm not only my personality or body. Emotions no longer belong to me as a whole, and the habit of discerning any emotion create a completely different life and body for myself. Suffering is impossible in this state. It's not denied, it just stops existing. It's like if you would stay forever drunk and relaxed, feeling good about yourself and life. You see that you are okay and the world is okay too. What is unfortunate about ego mind ruling is that when we are 100% attached to our automatic reactions and suffering about them, we are poisoning ourselves all the time, causing inflammation in the body and huge tension in the muscles. It leads to diseases and a lot of bad habits, helping us to dull the pain. The barking dog inside pushes us to the behavior based only on survival and defense. Regarding sleep deprivation, of course, the body eventually demands rest. And I'm not saying to stop sleeping at all and torture yourself to death, pushing yourself to stay awake 10 days in a row right away. Though sometimes when consciousness and body are aligned and healthy, such shift happens and sleep turns off on its own. And it's a very natural process in this case. But even if you stood awake for 24 hours or 30 hours in a row, what remains is the memory of that opened state. And with practice, that memory stabilizes into daily life. It has cumulative effect, like a bank of good hormones collected in you. The mind no longer clings to guilt or fear. The ego no longer dominates with its protective stories. It's like you become automatically healed in this state. You are going to another dimension where all these emotions are not existing. Instead, you live in that deep presence, awake within the dream. You feel like Alice in Wonderland and have no fears to try something new in your life. You can realize all your big desires and dreams within a week instead of years. If you want to explore this tool further, I invite you to join my Telegram education. There I shared in detail the miracles of this tool and why we are sleeping in general. I shared the information which is not for YouTube, but makes sense a lot. So join this Telegram education for 3 months and you will never be the same again. My contacts are pinned in the comments. As we close this exploration, I invite you to ask yourself, what if life is a dream? What if awakening is simply remembering who you truly are? What if there is no one to suffer, no one to feel guilty, no one to defend? Only pure awareness living through this body, this mind, this story. When you taste even a moment of this realization, everything changes. Life continues, but you are no longer trapped. You are awake within the dream. So all the events which were perceived by your suffering ego mind as bad will be easy and exciting for you. There will be no problems, not because you won't have to solve some issues, but because you will completely change your attitude towards all events in your life. By now, try to stay always in your body, breathe deeply, notice the sensations in your body each second of time, and remember, you are not limited to this. You are vast. You are awareness itself. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. May you awaken fully into the dream of life and live as the lucid presence you truly are. Stay true and kind. The rest things never mind. Sat Nam.